I remember entering high school as a freshman, already stressed out. It was like I walked through the doors of high school and people were like, what classes are you taking? What college are you going to? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We just started high school. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I just remember feeling so much pressure at such a young age to have it all figured out, to have everything done perfectly. And if I did anything wrong, I was gonna fail, I was never gonna graduate, and I would just amount to nothing. I remember having teachers and guidance counselors be like, so where do you see yourself in 4 years? And I just would sit there and be like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what I wanna do tomorrow. I don't even know what I'm eating for lunch. What do you mean to have my future figured out in 4 years? Like, that always felt so absurd to me, and that just made me feel even more anxious because I was like, am I doing something wrong here? Like, should I know the next 4 years of my life and I just turned 15? I think students and kids that age should be exploring the world and discovering who they are and figuring out what they want out of life before they're forced to make a decision that ultimately determines their future. Ultimately, we aren't given enough time to decide what we want. As soon as we enter high school, we are expected to just have everything together, and that's not normal. That's not normal. We are still growing. Our brains aren't even fully developed when we're in high school, and yet we are expected to make these adult decisions for our future. I was a straight A student in high school, and yet I was still unsure if I wanted to go to college, but it was something that my parents talked about, it was something that my teachers talked about, and my friends always mentioned it. You know, where do you want to go to school? What's your top 3? What's your top 5? And it just felt like the social norm to go to college. And I just remember feeling like there was no other option, that if I chose another option, if I chose to go against the norm, then I would be a failure because that was so uncertain, that was so almost forbidden. And if you were somebody who chose to not go to college, people would look at you funny. They would look at you like you were a loser or you were a failure, when in reality, how we choose to live our lives should be no one's business but our own. I remember senior year when a friend of mine was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a year off, I'm gonna travel, I wanna see the world, and then, you know, maybe I'll go to college. I just need time to think about it. And another friend of mine was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to take a year off? What if you fall behind? What if you don't graduate on time? What if you get too old and you just never go to college? And I used to sit there and be like, why is it any of your business? Why is it of anyone's business how we choose to live our lives? And it's like we're conditioned to follow this structure of conformity, of going with the norm instead of going against it and trying something different. I just remember being so stressed out about not being 100% sure about how I wanted my life to look in the next 4 years. And ultimately, I did decide to go to college, and that is a decision that I'm very happy that I made because it was one that was right for me at the time. But in the same breath, I wasn't sure. And that's a lot of money to be throwing on the table to not be sure. But when we aren't sure, when we express uncertainty or we express indifference to college, we're guilted. We're made to feel like we won't amount to anything if we don't follow the norm. I used to ask teachers, like, you know, I don't have it together yet, but like, does it get better in college? Do you actually figure out what you want to do once you get to college? And they were like, yeah, you know, it works itself out. And then once I got to college, I was still like, I'm not sure if this is what I want to do, but I'm here now. And yeah, I got to keep this momentum going. And there was still pressure once I was in college to be sure about my future when I was still exploring who I was. There were times where I would go to the library and meet friends to study. And, you know, my friends had super hard majors, chemical engineering, pre-vet, law. And they would spend hours, if not multiple days a week, pulling all-nighters. And I remember just sitting there like, is this the goal? Like, is this what it's come to, where we have to spend 30 hours a week studying to try to maintain this level of excellence that we're expected to achieve? And I used to sit there like, why don't we question this? This doesn't feel normal. This doesn't feel like it's healthy. It's like we've created this culture of burnout, this pride around, oh, I'm so tired, I had no time to sleep last night because I had an exam today and I just pulled an all-nighter. It was like there was this pride behind being exhausted and having no time to yourself and being malnourished and sleep deprived because that was the culture. And I just remember feeling like, you know what? I don't subscribe to this. This is not okay. I feel like the structure of education is one that inherently puts pressure on us to excel, but it doesn't provide the right environment to do that. I have friends now who are in their 20s who got the degree, who got the six-figure job, who work at the most amazing company, and they are so unhappy because they realized one day that this actually isn't what they want to do, and they feel trapped. And I think that's a feeling that could be avoided if we were given more time, given more freedom to decide who we are and who we want to be at a younger age. I want to be proud of the life I'm living, and I realize that money is not everything. And although it may seem like it because we live in a society that puts high value on high income and materialistic things and job titles, but at the end of the day, money means nothing if you're not happy. Money means nothing if you have no time to spend it on yourself. You know, I think it really comes down to evaluating what really matters to you in life. What are the things that you need to achieve the lifestyle that you want, and then determining how much money you want to make from there. Because I think it's so easy to get carried away with a high salary, but then you fall into this trap of trying to maintain it, working that 9 to 5, spending hours, 40 hours a week, working for somebody else, building somebody else's dream, than you do putting that time into yourself and building your own dreams. And it really isn't about you should go to college or you shouldn't go to college. It's really about what feels right for you, and you should have the freedom to make that decision for yourself without guilt from other people, without judgment from other people. We should be dreaming to add value to the world around us. We should be dreaming to be proud of the life we live. Success should not be determined by how much money you make or the car that you drive or the apartment that you live in. Success is ultimately determined by how proud you are to have your life, how happy you are every day, how you show up for yourself, how you show up for other people. I think that's how we should be measuring success. Whether or not you went to college, whether or not you have a degree, who cares where you work if you aren't happy? Who cares how much money you make if you are sad, if you hate your life? What matters to me is traveling. What matters to me is financial freedom. Having enough money to do the things that I want, but also having enough time to do those things. If I'm making X amount a year and I have no time to myself and I hate my life, to me that's not success. To me, that's barely holding on, and I don't want that. I don't want to have to work 40 hours a week and have a 9 to 5 and then retire at age 60 and then live my life. I want to be able to live my life now in my 20s and enjoy and find balance in things. I don't want to have to wait until I'm old and I barely have enough time on this earth to live life, to see life. If you are someone who feels an immense amount of pressure about your future, you are not the only person. I have friends in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s who are still finding who they are, and that's something that is completely normal. But yet we are put in a culture, in this society, that expects us to have all of that figured out before we're fully an adult, before we even know who we are. How you choose to live your life is fully up to you. It is your life. It is your decision, and choose the path that will bring you the most happiness. Don't choose the path that makes you the most money, because money is temporary. Money is temporary. If success is rooted in a monetary value, it can be taken away like that. You can get fired from your job. Success should never be rooted in money. It should never be determined by materialistic things, because those things are temporary. You could lose your job tomorrow, and then what do you have if you don't have your happiness? What do you have if you don't have balance, if you aren't working on other things that fuel you and that recharge you and that could protect you against losing your job? When you give yourself the freedom to simply live life, to make mistakes, to mess up, to start over again, life ultimately figures itself out, and you and everybody else deserves to live a life that you choose. Thank you guys so much for watching, and like, comment, and subscribe if you relate to this, if you don't subscribe to the norm, because honestly, the norm is not what it's cracked up to be.